Let's start with your news from yesterday, earnings for the fourth quarter and what you're looking at for 2021, because Illumina's business as the biggest provider of equipment for genome sequencing can often be a barometer for the health of research. And you saw a pickup in the second half, even though 2020 was lower overall. What are you seeing for 2021, especially with the focus on more sequencing of the variants?
Yeah, what we talked about in the earnings call yesterday was that we're coming into the year with a lot of momentum. That when we looked at Q4, we saw a real strength in our core businesses. So the research community seems to have found a way to get back largely into their institutions and start doing sequencing again. And that sequencing activity in the research market was now back to pre-pandemic levels. And in the clinical segments that we serve, so cancer testing to match patients with therapies, working with pregnant parents to assess the health of their babies through non-invasive prenatal testing, their sequencing was actually ahead of pre-pandemic levels. And so we're entering the year with a lot of momentum. And what we announced on the call yesterday was, although it's still early in the quarter, we were actually raising expectations and our forecast for Q1 because of the strength we were seeing in the core business. And then we also talked about the fact that we're seeing this growing awareness of the need of sequencing to fight the pandemic, to understand what the variants that are emerging are, and to set up a surveillance infrastructure for the future to look for new pandemics and pathogens.
Well, tell us about that idea that you put forth in The Economist this week, that we need a Bioforce, similar to what the U.S. has in a Space Force, but you're suggesting led by private industry in collaboration with governments, and it really needs to be a global focus. Tell us about this idea and whether you think there is momentum behind something like this.
Yeah, this idea is born of the experience we at Illumina have had working through the pandemic over the last, year and a half. We were called into Wuhan at the tail end of 2019 to help the CDC, the public health teams there, identify the source of what was then this pneumonia of unknown origin. And we worked with the teams in Shanghai to sequence that virus and publish the first viral genome of SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus behind COVID. And since then, we've been working with health systems, with CDCs around the world. And one of the things that was sort of a real awakening was people were realizing that even here in the U.S., we had the virus circulating in the U.S. for weeks, months, and it was impacting human lives, and we still didn't know it was here. And so one of the things that's come away is people are realizing we need a much better surveillance system that's going to identify pathogen outbreaks. Now, that could be coronaviruses like the one we have right now, but it could be emerging antimicrobial resistance, or it could even be a bioterrorist attack. And so there's sort of this awareness now that we need to put together this global infrastructure that's watching for pathogen outbreaks. And to put it together, it's going to need first to be global. It's going to be genomics-based because you need to understand what the pathogen that's causing the outbreak is. And then it's going to need a mix of public and private partnership. You need private companies that do the innovations, the technology like we do in sequencing, but you also need public health systems, CDCs, the WHO. So you need a public-private partnership to really make this happen.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.